Imagine losing $700 billion because of a single afternoon of bad decisions, or watching a multi-million dollar spacecraft vaporize into thin air because of a simple math error that a middle schooler could have caught. Most of us lose sleep over a lost $100 bill or a missed payment. But in the high-stakes theater of global history, those are less than a rounding error compared to the monumental blunders we are about to explore. We are talking about mistakes so massive they didn't just bankrupt multinational corporations. They collapsed entire empires, permanently altered the global economy, and rewrote the very laws of science and engineering. From death rays in the middle of London to the most expensive typing error in the history of human finance. These are the staggering blunders that prove even the most powerful and brilliant people on Earth can be catastrophically wrong. If you think your last mistake was bad, just wait until you see what happens when a trillion-dollar oversight meets the cold, hard reality of physics and human greed. Have you ever wondered how a single, fleeting moment of poor judgment or a tiny decimal point out of place could end up costing more than the entire annual GDP of a small nation? Today, we are diving deep into the staggering stories of the 10 most expensive mistakes ever made, ranging from architectural disasters to missed investment opportunities that would have turned ordinary people into the wealthiest individuals to ever walk the planet. These aren't just small slips. They are catastrophic, multi-generational oversights that prove that even the most brilliant minds can fail on a scale that is almost impossible for the human brain to comprehend. As we count down from 10 to the absolute costliest error in human existence, you will see how a lethal cocktail of pride, haste, and simple bad luck combined to burn through trillions of dollars, leaving behind legacies of regret that still haunt the organizations, families, and governments involved to this very day. Starting our list at number 10 is the infamous sale of Alaska in 1867, a decision made by Tsar Alexander II of Russia that remains one of the most lopsided and regrettable real estate deals in the history of the modern world. At the time, the Russian Empire was struggling under the weight of financial exhaustion following the Crimean War and feared that they might eventually lose the territory to Great Britain in a future conflict without receiving any compensation at all. So they decided to sell the massive, icy expanse to the United States for the sum of $7.2 million. While that might sound like a fair bit of money for the mid-19th century, it equates to roughly 2 cents per acre for a landmass that was later discovered to be overflowing with gold, platinum, and some of the largest and most accessible oil reserves on the North American continent. The United States has extracted hundreds of billions of dollars in raw resources from Alaska since the purchase, meaning Russia essentially handed over a strategic and economic gold mine for what amounted to a pittance in the grand scheme of geopolitical power. Moving to number 9, we look at the breathtakingly expensive failure of the Mars Climate Orbiter in 1999, a mission that was supposed to be a triumph for NASA's initiative, but instead became a textbook example of why double-checking your work is a matter of life and death in science. The spacecraft, which cost approximately $125 million to design, build, and launch, disappeared into the thin Martian atmosphere because one engineering team at Lockheed Martin used imperial units of measurement, while another team at NASA used the metric system for the critical navigation software. This simple lack of communication and basic unit conversion caused the orbiter to approach the red planet at an altitude much lower than intended, where it was promptly shredded by atmospheric friction and lost forever in the silent void of space. While the financial loss of the hardware was significant, the blow to scientific progress and the global reputation of the world's leading space agency was even greater, proving that even rocket scientists are not immune to the kind of basic math errors that would result in a failing grade for a primary school student. At number 8, we find a mistake that resonates with every music lover and investor who has ever missed out on a sure thing, involving the Decca Recording Company and their legendary decision to reject a young band from Liverpool known as the Beatles. In 1962, the band auditioned for the label with high hopes, only to be told by dismissive executives that guitar groups were on their way out and that the four boys had no future whatsoever in the competitive world of show business. By passing on what would become the most successful, influential, and profitable band in the history of recorded music, Decca lost out on billions of dollars in record sales, licensing deals, and merchandising that defined the culture of the latter half of the 20th century. While it is difficult to put a precise, inflation-adjusted dollar amount on the total loss, considering the Beatles' entire catalog and cultural impact is worth untold billions today, it stands as arguably the most expensive talent scouting failure in history. Number 7 brings us to the architectural embarrassment of the Walkie-Talkie Building in London, a skyscraper designed with a distinctive curved glass facade that unintentionally acted as a giant, sky-high parabolic mirror. During its construction, the building's south-facing concave surface began reflecting and concentrating sunlight into intense, laser-like beams that were strong enough to melt car parts, set carpets on fire inside nearby shops, and even allow people to fry eggs on the sidewalk below for the amusement of local news crews. This death ray effect forced the embarrassed developers to spend tens of millions of pounds on a permanent, complex sunshade system to prevent the building from literally incinerating the neighborhood it was built to modernize. The cost of the massive retrofitting, combined with the legal settlements for damaged luxury cars and fried storefronts, turned the sleek architectural marvel into a costly and humiliating nightmare for its primary investors. In our sixth spot, we encounter the devastating 1994 fire at the Windsor Castle, but specifically, we focus on the shocking decision not to insure the historic structure, which led to a restoration bill that ballooned to over £36 million. While the fire itself was a tragic accident caused by a spotlight pressing against a heavy curtain during a routine renovation, the financial fallout was a massive and public blow to the British taxpayer and the royal family. This mistake highlights a classic error in risk management, where the arrogant assumption that it could never happen here leads to a complete lack of protection for priceless, irreplaceable assets. The physical loss of art and history was staggering, but the economic and social pressure it placed on the monarchy forced a shift in traditions that had stood for hundreds of years just to balance the books and rebuild the crown's property, including opening the palace to tourists. Coming in at number 5 is the story of Excite, an early internet search engine giant that had the opportunity to buy a small startup called Google for the shockingly low price of just $750,000 in 1999. Larry Page and Sergey Brin were actually willing to sell their creation because they wanted to focus on their doctoral studies at Stanford, but the CEO of Excite turned them down, believing that Google's search technology was actually too efficient and would lead users away from the Excite portal too quickly. Today, Alphabet, the parent company of Google, is valued at nearly $2 trillion, making Excite's refusal one of the most expensive and short-sighted no votes in the history of global commerce. It is a chilling and constant reminder of how a total lack of vision and an unhealthy obsession with short-term traffic metrics can cause a company to miss the boat on a generational technological shift. Fourth on our list is the catastrophic new Coke launch in 1985, where the Coca-Cola Company decided to fundamentally change the secret formula of the world's most popular soft drink despite nearly a century of unrivaled success. They spent millions upon millions on secret research, chemical development, and aggressive marketing, only to face an unprecedented and angry backlash from a public that felt their very cultural identity was being tampered with. The company was eventually forced to crawl back and reintroduce the original formula as classic just 79 days later, having wasted enormous sums of money and nearly destroying their brand loyalty in a single summer of madness. While they eventually recovered their market position, the sheer cost of the failed launch, the lost market share to Pepsi, and the logistical nightmare of switching global production twice in 1 year remains a legendary cautionary tale taught in every business school on the planet. Number 3 takes us to the high-pressure world of the deep sea with the Piper Alpha oil rig disaster in 1988, where a simple, avoidable communication error during a routine shift change led to a massive explosion that killed 167 men and cost an estimated $3.4 billion. A critical safety valve had been removed for maintenance during the day, but the incoming night shift was not properly informed through the paperwork and restarted a heavy pump, leading to a catastrophic and uncontrollable gas leak. The resulting financial cost of the litigation, the total loss of the expensive rig, and the subsequent total overhaul of North Sea safety regulations was immense, but the human cost was truly the greatest and most painful tragedy. This event serves as a somber and vital reminder that in high-stakes industrial environments, A single overlooked piece of paperwork or a rushed conversation can lead to a level of destruction that no amount of money can repair. Our runner-up at number 2 is the 1998 decision by the Japanese investment firm Mizuho Securities to sell 610,000 shares of a company for a single yen each, instead of selling one share for 610,000 yen as they had originally intended. A simple typing error by a stressed trader, combined with a computer system that failed to flag the obviously nonsensical trade, resulted in a loss of at least $225 million in less than a single hour of trading. Despite the firm's desperate, public attempts to cancel the trades once they realized the error, the Tokyo Stock Exchange refused to intervene, leaving the company to swallow a massive loss because of a single misplaced finger on a keyboard. This fat finger trade remains one of the most famous and terrifying examples of how modern, high-frequency finance can amplify a tiny human error into a multi-million-dollar catastrophe in the blink of an eye. Finally, reaching the number 1 spot for the most expensive, devastating, and world-altering mistake in human history is the 1986 Chernobyl nuclear disaster, a catastrophe caused by a fundamentally flawed reactor design and inadequately trained personnel during a poorly managed safety test. The immediate and long-term costs of the disaster, including the total evacuation of hundreds of thousands of people, the construction of the massive steel containment sarcophagus, and the ongoing health and environmental monitoring of an entire region, are estimated to exceed $700 billion when adjusted for modern inflation. Beyond the staggering financial figures, the political fallout contributed significantly to the eventual collapse of the Soviet Union, making it an error that quite literally changed the course of world history and redrew the maps of Europe. It stands as a terrifying and ultimate testament to the fact that when technology and human hubris collide, the price can be a burden that future generations will still be paying for centuries. If this deep dive into history's most colossal blunders made you feel a little bit better about your own mistakes, then make sure to hit that like button right now to help the algorithm share these cautionary tales with the world. We put a massive amount of research into every single video to bring you the most fascinating, high-stakes stories from across the globe. So if you want to stay ahead of the curve and never miss a countdown, click that subscribe button and turn on all notifications so you are the first to know when we drop our next documentary. Don't forget to head down to the comments section and let us know which of these 10 mistakes shocked you the most, or tell us about a massive historical error that we might have missed for a chance to be featured in a future video. Your engagement is what keeps this channel growing, and we truly appreciate every single one of you who watches until the very end to support independent storytelling. If you enjoyed this video, you are definitely going to want to click the one appearing on your screen right now, where we explore the shocking downfalls of the world's most powerful billionaires who managed to lose everything in the blink of an eye. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one as we continue to uncover the most incredible stories that history has to offer.